Have you ever wondered why some women leave a man not when he is struggling, not when he is broke, not when he is climbing, but right after he finally reaches the peak of his success? Why do some women walk away after the victory, after the money, after the recognition, when logically you would think that is the moment to stay? Jordan Peterson once pointed out that human relationships are not built only on stability, comfort, or material gain. They are also built on testing, evolution, and the never-ending challenge of growth. What Peterson uncovers is uncomfortable. Women are not attracted to static success, but to movement, forward momentum, transformation, and the constant drive of becoming. In this video, we will go deep into Peterson's brutal truth about female psychology, why some women leave men after they succeed, and why men who do not understand this law are blindsided when the very success they worked for becomes the reason their relationship collapses. We'll break this down into 7 parts, and by the end, you will not only see the hidden psychology of women, but also the mistakes men make when they think success is the finish line of attraction. So let's begin with part 1. Part 1. Success is not the final destination in attraction. When men pursue success, whether it's career advancement, building a business, financial wealth, or social recognition, they often imagine a story. Once I make it, once I reach the top, then she will stay with me forever. Then she will love me unconditionally. This fantasy is deeply rooted in how men think about achievement. For men, success often represents security. It represents having done enough. It represents reaching a point where the struggle can finally end. But here lies the paradox Jordan Peterson identifies. Attraction does not freeze at the moment of success. To a woman, success is not a static state. It is a signal of growth, movement, and dominance. It is a proof of vitality. But once success hardens into comfort, once achievement turns into stagnation, the signal of life force begins to fade. Many men, after achieving their goals, unconsciously shift into maintenance mode. They slow down. They think, I've earned rest. I've proven myself. I no longer have to fight every day. From a man's perspective, this is logical. From a woman's perspective, it is the beginning of decay. Women are deeply wired, often unconsciously, to look not just at what a man has, but at the trajectory of his energy. The danger Peterson points out is that a man who settles after success becomes a man who is no longer moving. And to a woman's psyche, stillness feels like decline. Think about it. Many men who suddenly become financially successful after years of struggle are shocked to find their partner becoming restless, critical, or distant. It feels like betrayal. They say, she was with me when I had nothing. Why would she leave me now when I finally have everything? The answer lies in the invisible law of attraction. She was drawn to the becoming, not just the being. She was pulled toward the energy of movement, the fight, the ambition, the uncertainty that made you alive. When that energy is replaced by comfort, routine, and stability, she feels as though the man she loved has disappeared. This is why success can ironically destroy a relationship, not because success is bad, but because many men misunderstand what success means in the psychology of attraction. They think it is the end. She experiences it as the beginning of decline, and this misunderstanding creates the heartbreak Peterson often warns men about. Part 2. The hidden test behind female attraction. Now let's move into the second layer of this truth. Peterson often talks about the fact that relationships, especially with women, are built on testing, not testing in the shallow sense of manipulation, but testing in the deep biological and psychological sense of ensuring survival. A woman does not simply choose a man for what he has right now. She tests whether he can continue to adapt, continue to grow, continue to expand his dominance in an unpredictable future. When a man reaches success and then relaxes, he often fails this unconscious test. Because in the female psyche, attraction is tied to survival and future security, not just present comfort. She does not ask herself consciously, is he still growing? Is he still striving? But her instincts read it. If she feels that he has reached a peak and is now declining, her unconscious mind begins to detach. This is what so many men misinterpret as hypergamy. In its raw form, when women leave one man for another, who appears more ambitious, more vital, more alive. But Peterson refines this perspective. It is not always about leaving for a richer man or a stronger man. Sometimes it is simply about leaving a man who has stopped growing. Because in her instinct, if he has stopped evolving, then his future is already decline, and decline equals danger. Peterson explains that the female psyche is built to scan for trajectory, not just status. This is why women are often more impressed by the man on his way up than the man already at the top. The journey signals life, adaptability, and power. The destination often signals rigidity, stagnation, and eventual decay. Let's take an example. Imagine a man who builds a company from scratch, sacrifices for years, works sleepless nights, and finally sells it for millions. During the climb, his woman admires him, supports him, and feels proud of his relentless energy. But once he cashes out and spends his days in luxury, without purpose, without fire, without a new frontier, she feels the flame inside him has died. Even though he now provides every comfort, her psyche interprets his stillness as weakness. Peterson emphasizes that this is not cruelty on her part. It is biology. It is survival. Women are evolutionarily programmed to avoid men who collapse after reaching success, because survival in history always required men who could continually adapt, continually protect, and continually strive. Stopping meant death. And though modern life no longer operates under the same dangers, the ancient programming still rules attraction. So when men misunderstand this test, they become blindsided. They think, but I gave her everything. I achieved it all for us. But what she wanted was not the end of the journey. She wanted the continuation. And this is why some women leave men right after their greatest achievement. They are not leaving the man's wealth or status. They are leaving the death of his fire. Part 3, the comfort trap. Why stability kills attraction. One of Peterson's most controversial yet accurate observations is this: what men desire most after success, peace, comfort, and stability, is the very thing that erodes attraction in women. This is what I call the comfort trap. Men work, fight, struggle, and climb, often not for themselves alone, but to one day buy comfort for their partner, their family, and themselves. And yet, ironically, it is this comfort that can silently poison the relationship. Why? Because comfort eliminates unpredictability. It removes the unknown. It erases the drama of struggle and the adrenaline of risk. To the male psyche, that is heaven, rest after war. To the female psyche, that is the beginning of death. Women are wired to respond to tension, to movement, to the possibility of danger and adaptation. When a man settles into comfort, when he stops being unpredictable, when he becomes routine, her psyche begins to search for stimulus elsewhere. Peterson often warns that this doesn't make women ungrateful, it makes them human. It is not that she doesn't appreciate what you've built. It is that she cannot feel alive if you no longer radiate the energy of growth. The female psyche thrives on energy that is slightly unstable, slightly dangerous, slightly beyond her control. Comfort, ironically, is suffocating. This is why so many stories unfold the same way. The man works for decades to provide a mansion, luxury cars, and financial freedom. He believes this is the ultimate expression of love and security. Yet his wife grows distant, cold, or restless. She complains about boredom. She says, "I don't even know who you are anymore." He feels betrayed. He sacrificed everything to build the comfort she now rejects. But what he doesn't see is that by trading fire for comfort, he unknowingly killed the very essence of his masculine energy. Peterson ties this back to the archetype of chaos and order. Men seek to establish order, stability, predictability, structure. But women, as symbolic representations of chaos in myth, resist being locked into dead order. Part 4. The invisible hypergamy. It's not just about money. When most men hear the word hypergamy, they think of money, status, or material wealth. They believe women leave men because they want someone richer, more famous, more powerful. While this is true in some cases, Peterson takes a far more nuanced approach. He argues that hypergamy is less about external wealth and more about internal vitality. In other words, women are not just scanning for who has more, but for who is becoming more. Hypergamy is not a shallow calculation, it is an instinctive scanning of trajectory. A man may be wealthy but spiritually dead, successful but psychologically stagnant. Another man may be less wealthy but burning with ambition, vision, and energy. To a woman's psyche, the second man is more attractive because he radiates life force. This is where men misunderstand why women leave after success. They assume, she left because she wanted someone richer than me. But the truth is subtler. Often, she leaves because she senses that another man has the fire her partner lost. It is not simply about material hypergamy. It is about evolutionary hypergamy, the desire for a man who is alive in his becoming. Peterson warns men not to confuse provision with presence. A man can provide everything financially, but fail to provide the psychological presence of ambition, vision, and forward drive. A woman might respect the comfort he gives, but she cannot desire a man who has stopped radiating power. This is why so many women leave successful men not for billionaires, but for men who are still climbing, still striving, still dangerous. To illustrate, think of a famous actor or musician at the peak of his career. He is adored, successful, wealthy, yet his partner leaves him, not for someone richer, but for someone unknown, someone with energy, ambition, and fire. To outsiders, it looks irrational. But to the female psyche, it makes perfect sense. She is following life force, not bank accounts. Part 5. The shadow of male complacency. If Part 3 was about the comfort trap, and Part 4 about misunderstood hypergamy, then Part 5 cuts even deeper: complacency. Peterson often highlights that the greatest danger to men after success is not external enemies, but internal laziness. Complacency is the silent killer of relationships. Complacency is not just rest, it is the death of hunger. It is the quiet belief, I have done enough. I don't need to fight anymore. She should be satisfied with what I've achieved. This mindset poisons attraction because it assumes that desire can be maintained without energy. But desire, like a fire, requires fuel. Without continual challenge, it dies. Men who fall into complacency stop pursuing their woman with the same fire they once had. They stop surprising her. They stop seducing her. They stop challenging her. They begin to treat her like a permanent possession rather than a living, breathing being who responds to energy. And as soon as a woman feels she is no longer being pursued, not just materially but emotionally, spiritually and sexually, her desire begins to detach. Peterson connects this to the archetypal idea of the dragon and the hero. A man's role is not to slay the dragon once and then retire. The dragon reappears every day, new challenges, new battles, new tests. The man who slays one dragon and hangs up his sword becomes weak, complacent, and vulnerable. The man who continues to fight inside himself and outside in the world remains attractive because he embodies the eternal warrior. Complacency shows up in subtle ways. The man gains weight after success. He stops dressing with care. He loses interest in deep conversation. He avoids conflict instead of mastering it. He becomes passive in bed, assuming her attraction will remain without effort. All of these small declines add up to a silent message. I am no longer dangerous. I am no longer alive in the way I once was. And the female psyche reads that message instantly. She may not say it directly, but she feels it. Her restlessness grows. Her respect wanes. Her attraction fades. Until one day she leaves, not because of betrayal, not because of greed, but because complacency killed the man she once desired. Part 6. The feminine instinct for evolution over security. Jordan Peterson repeatedly emphasizes that the feminine instinct is not merely about safety, it is about growth. If women truly desired nothing but safety, then history would show women staying forever with the safest option. But that is not what we see. Time and again, women abandon safe men for men who carry risk, unpredictability, and intensity. Why? Because the feminine psyche is oriented toward evolution, not static preservation. Peterson links this to a deep evolutionary reality. In nature, security is always temporary. Safety is an illusion because the world is always changing. A tribe that became too safe was quickly wiped out by neighboring forces, famine, or disease. The only groups that survived were those led by men who continually adapted, continually grew, and continually expanded. Women therefore evolved to sense this trajectory. Their attraction system became tuned not to stability alone, but to vitality, the energy that ensures long-term survival through constant evolution. This is why women sometimes leave men, even when those men provide complete material security. To her psyche, static security feels like vulnerability because it means he has stopped evolving. She senses unconsciously, if he cannot keep growing, then one day his strength will fail, and when it does, I and my children will suffer. Peterson insists that this is not a cynical calculation on the woman's part. It is an ancient biological instinct that most men underestimate. The tragedy comes when men interpret it as betrayal instead of understanding its logic. She is not rejecting what he has done. She is rejecting the fact that he has stopped becoming. Let's illustrate with a modern example. A man becomes a wealthy doctor or lawyer. He marries young, works hard, builds a career, and eventually earns prestige and wealth. But once established, he stops growing. He no longer challenges himself intellectually, spiritually, or physically. His daily life becomes predictable: work, home, television, sleep. His wife, who once admired his fire, now feels suffocated by his stagnation. She doesn't leave because she needs more money. She leaves because she no longer feels alive with him. Part 7. The masculine response. Keep becoming, never settle. After breaking down all these truths, Peterson doesn't leave men in despair. He provides a path forward, a masculine response to this brutal law of attraction. And the response is simple but demanding: never stop becoming. The masculine mistake is believing that life has a finish line. Men think, if I can just reach this income, this career, this level of recognition, then I can rest. But in reality, there is no finish line. Life is continual becoming. Growth must never end, because the moment it ends, attraction begins to die. Peterson frames it this way: women are drawn to men who embody the archetype of the hero, the one who confronts chaos and continually brings order from it. But the hero's journey does not end with one dragon. It is eternal. There is always another dragon. There is always another mountain. There is always another challenge. The man who accepts this truth remains eternally attractive, because he embodies the energy of life itself. This does not mean a man must constantly chase money or external success. Growth can take many forms: intellectual growth, spiritual growth, physical mastery, creative pursuit, or leadership in new domains. The key is that he must remain alive in his striving. A man who continues to expand keeps radiating the vitality women unconsciously crave. Peterson warns men, never let success turn into complacency. Never let victory become the excuse for stagnation. Success should be fuel for new battles, not the grave where your ambition is buried. The masculine response to success is not rest, it is redirection. Use the foundation of your achievements to aim higher, deeper, and further. Peterson's final warning. And this brings us to the conclusion. Jordan Peterson's most brutal truth about why women leave men after success is not about greed, betrayal, or superficial hypergamy. It is about biology, psychology, and the ancient forces that govern attraction. Women are not abandoning men because they want more. They are abandoning men who have stopped becoming. Peterson's warning to men is clear. Do not make the mistake of thinking success guarantees loyalty. Do not think that providing wealth, status, or security is enough. These things are important, but they are not the essence of attraction. The essence of attraction is vitality, forward momentum, continual growth, and the refusal to stagnate. Men who treat success as the end are digging their own graves in relationships. Men who treat success as fuel for new battles remain eternally alive, and women cannot help but desire them. That is the brutal law. That is the truth most men refuse to face. So the question you must ask yourself is this: will you become the man who dies at the peak of his success, or the man who uses success as the starting point for greater becoming? Because one choice leads to betrayal, heartbreak, and bitterness, and the other leads to respect, desire, and a life where women remain magnetized to your presence. Peterson leaves us with this harsh wisdom. Women leave men after success because nature itself demands that men never stop growing. So do not settle. Do not die in your comfort. Keep becoming. Keep fighting. Keep alive. Because the moment you stop, the moment you believe you have made it, is the moment she begins to walk away.